We live in New Hampshire, Manchester. We're a little less than an hour north of Boston. After 15 years in South Carolina, very glad to be back where we have 4 seasons and where my menopause isn't such a problem. My constant heat flash is mitigated by good cool air, so we love it.
Yeah, 45 minutes from the ocean, 45 minutes to the mountains.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's just the perfect place to live, Tori.
And what do you both do?
I'm a artist. I do custom calligraphy, and my shop is on Etsy.
And I supervise a factory of workers in the defense industry. I work for a big defense contractor. Just supervise workers making parts that go into a lot of military aircraft. So.
What is it like having an immediate family member with lupus?
Well, I think it educates you, for one thing. It kind of gets on your radar in a way that it wouldn't have otherwise. And then also perks you up to the plight of other people going through it. All of a sudden you have a point of understanding that you didn't have before. Mm-hmm. And especially with lupus, because I think it's a mystery disease in terms of, few people in the public know very much about it. Many other conditions and diseases, have very distinct understanding generally, but I think lupus is an exception to that.
What is it like having an immediate family member with lupus?
I learned that feeling sorry for that person is not helpful at all. Having a family member with lupus is a challenge in staying focused on her healing and being excited about the path that she's on, knowing that she's learning things that she never would have before, and as a result is teaching all sorts of other people all sorts of other things that are helpful. I'm so proud that I have a daughter with lupus.
Yeah,
it's
a
gift.
That,
yeah, how you are navigating it. It's a gift that's all wrapped up, and you could just throw it down and stamp on it, but you have unwrapped it layer by layer. You have looked for the gold. You're still digging and still finding. So I feel really honored.
Thank you. What is one thing you learned about lupus over the past few years that you didn't know before?
I didn't know that the diet was incredibly significant. And the first time I heard you couldn't have carbs, I cried. Like, what about potatoes? No, Ma, there's the carbs. How about this? How about that? And it was devastating. We've totally jumped that hurdle. And you eat like a king. Good night. Everybody's going to want your recipes when you put out your cookbook. Cookbook for lupus.
Stay tuned, y'all.
Yeah.
Seriously.
How did family time or your time with me change since the diagnosis? How did you have to adjust to accommodate?
Significantly. I thought you were going to die. Like, you almost died.
Well, and that's the thing, and I think that this may be the answer to a different question, but the hardest part, far and away, was the long period of misdiagnosis and undiagnosis. The helpless feeling that we had as parents, we didn't know what it was going on, as you didn't, and then a series of misdiagnoses, which were, not fun. So I think that was the hardest part, was just the long period of not sure where you were, what your real condition was, what you needed, and then the disappointment of a temporary diagnosis that proved to be wrong.
And the treatments actually made you worse than better.
Yeah, so that was very, very difficult. So since the actual diagnosis, it's been better, since there's clarity. And you have been such a very proactive patient, in terms of taking your own welfare into hand and being clear about what you needed to do and not do, and doing those things. And so to the immediate question, how has it changed family time and gatherings? It's always, in my mind, we don't want to do anything or eat anything, that isn't going to fit with your diet without you being taken care of. You know what I'm saying? You've been very good about, you folks eat whatever you want, I've got to eat this. And you've been proactive about making sure that's there. But that point is always in my mind, that want to make sure you're taken care of, and
And you guys are really good at that too. I always food prep everywhere I go, so it doesn't really matter. Whenever I show up, there are always things that I didn't bring that I can also eat, which is really nice.
I think one thing I learned too is that And me having, been bedridden for 2 years and had to deal with my own issues, I did not want to put on you having to take care of me because I was sad because you were sick. Did you follow? So I had to be a big girl and take a step back and not be so involved with what was going on, which was super healthy for you and became healthy for me. It wasn't at first because you're my girl. You are my flesh and blood. I would die for you. And I'm not in your life. What's the deal? You don't know how I feel? Well, don't you want to know? All of that stuff had to be trashed because that was not important. What was important was Tori getting well. And so me being a main figure in your life, that desire, ever since you were little, needed to be shelved. It's so much easier. Life is so much greater when you can take those expectations and just trash them and see what is for you today. What gift do you have today? And sometimes I get FaceTime with Tori and Leo.
Yeah, and I think that's a good overall point, is for the people who are the support network to ask the direct question, how can we support you? What can we do that will help you? And not to assume, that this or that will be helpful if it's not, but to actually have communication so you get the opportunity to say, yes, this helps and this doesn't.
And to not be hurt.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me. I want to know.
Yeah, we want to know.
Because you're either loving you or you're loving me. Or I'm loving me. Yeah.
Dad kind of already answered part of this, but I want to know for you, what was your hardest part of the lupus?
So it was the last time I came out. I still need some processing because I get hurty in that part. You were like 70 pounds, all 6 foot of you, and I was walking in your backfield in circles over and over and over, just begging the Lord to spare your life because we had no idea and we didn't know what to do. It was so confusing because you'd gone to the emergency room, we'd tried everything and you were still failing. And so that was the hardest part, where I took those walks and just praised God that he knew exactly what was going on and that I could trust him. It was an act of my will to trust God. It was not a feeling at all.
What is an unexpected perk of having a family member with lupus for you guys?
I think your diet's super healthy, for anyone. So that's a super perk. I remember at the ocean when we were all together last summer?
September,
yeah. And Leo wanted you to take a bite of whatever, and you said, I'm fasting. And it was just so easy. I thought, I'll borrow that word.
Yeah, I think just the perk has been knowledge, but also just watching you navigate it, to, again, be very clear about what you needed and to put those things in place. And especially to marshal or conserve for a long period. You had a lot of bad days with the good days, but you seem to be very proactive on the good days to make use of that time to set up everything you needed, to have the things in place for when the bad days came, and that was just good to see you navigate all of that and take care of yourself in a good way, a healthy way.
I got my time management skills from my dad.
Yeah, definitely.
What was your understanding of lupus before the diagnosis, and what is it now?
It was a complete mystery, and now there's still some mystery to it, but a lot less. Your videos and things and just what we've learned along the way, have helped us have a better idea of what's involved.
How were you guys able to cope? It wasn't easy for me, but definitely you guys are secondhand and needed your own source of comfort. How are you guys able to cope throughout the diagnosis and since?
Yeah, there's a song that says it all. It says, I will praise you in the waiting, and just to know that the person of Jesus Christ not only has healed you with his wounds, so I praise him for that. I have confidence that you're going to be healed, but also the Spirit of Christ is inside me, so I can, if I'm open, think his thoughts. Like I said, I can praise him in the waiting even if I don't feel it, because I believe what he says trumps what I feel.
Yeah, I think that was similar for me. Just, because she was talking about the time when we didn't know, and we really were wondering if you were going to survive. So she was there on site, while I am fielding the calls from her, and hearing the reports and feel even more helpless. And, so my refuge was, there was no mystery. It was nothing but mystery, in terms of all the misdiagnosis and all, humanly speaking. But there's no mystery to God. He knew where you were, what was going on. You were in his hand. And I just had to keep my hands off it, and just keep looking to him, just trusting him. So,
what advice would you give to somebody who just found out that somebody close to them has lupus?
A couple of things come to mind. In a healthy way, educate yourself. If you're the kind of person that then has to go and rehearse all that with the patient, that can be unhealthy, But if you can, apart from that, educate yourself so that you know as much as you can know without getting a degree, that's helpful. The other thing would be, when it's appropriate, the conversation I spoke of earlier, how can we support you? What do you need? The sense in which you communicate, hey, we are here for you for anything you need. We want to help you. So help us help you, by communicating, letting us know what is helpful to you, what is not helpful to you, what we can do, what you don't need. Those kinds of conversations at appropriate times. That would be the thing that I would point to.
I think too, not to be afraid of getting outside help. Someone that is not in the family, that's not feeling it so deeply, go to a counselor, go to somebody that has perspective, and be picky. If it didn't fit, don't go to that person again. Find some place where you can be safe to vent all your feelings and to have a safe place to put them all in order and come to peace in yourself about what's going on with this tornado that you're watching, because you can't help if you're a tornado yourself.
Yeah.
It's not going to help.
Well, and I think what Joey said earlier is pretty huge too. Be careful about taking care of yourself at the expense of the patient.
Exactly.
I think that's, you want to be clear that you're not doing that and that you don't get hurt, because some other source is used, to communicate to or whatever. You really want to be supported to say, you do whatever you need to do and you involve us as much as is helpful to you. Don't take the temperature on us.
Right.
And I think that's
a good word.
Well, yeah, it's not easy though. If you're the one yearning after that person's welfare, that's not easy. But again, sometimes that intense desire to be helpful can lead to unhelpful things and unhealthy things. And so you have to be willing to take your cues from the patient.
From the lupus warrior, like Tori. Like,
All
what
right.
you really need to do is watch her YouTube and buy her cookbook.
All right. One last question. What was your funniest memory of me as a kid?
I mean, number one, I enjoy every time I think of the fact that you didn't develop your Y sound very early. And so I would say, hey, want to jump in the car with me and go to the store? And you would go, rather than
She was an awesome communicator.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a dog that we actually got the dog in order to help with cleanup, because having all those children at lunchtime was rough. Lots of crumbs and stuff. And so Dad was holding Tori at one point, and she wasn't even 2 years old, and she was little. She saw the piece of food and went, and then, like, she didn't need words to communicate. She still doesn't.
Yeah, and the dog got up very obediently and understood every word of that and walked over and took care of what was on the floor. But also one other great memory, and I don't know if Tori was like 4 or whatever, but she had this little 90 type shirt on, Joey. Do you remember that?
Oh, this is hilarious.
Yeah, little.
Leo, come sit up here with Gran. Do you want to come sit up here with Gran?
That's Aunt Emily.
This is a bird.
Oh, you want to spray this?
Oh.
That's fine.
Anyway,
Leo, will you come help me wash
Tori had this little night shirt on, and I was in the living room and needed her to come downstairs. And Tori, come down here right now. And she said, "In my bra?"
She's like 4.
She was scandalized. So, that
Okay,
was
one more memory.
Yes.
We have this video where she was helping me make muffins, and we asked her. I took a video of her, and she had on her little. It was hot. It was summer. You had on a little t-shirt. What do you call that?
Tank
top.
Tank top.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we asked her what kind of blueberry muffins. I said, "What kind of muffins?" She goes, "Strawberry." It was so sweet.
It was cute.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. So good to see you guys this holiday.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, what was the first?
Oh, sorry. The first question didn't.
Oh,
Lupus.
I can tell you. A new cookbook coming out on YouTube.